we were having an opinion poll. Jimmy said that I look really good without my teeth. So I asked everybody, should I just leave it like it is, or should I go ahead and get the teeth? What do you think, Santa?
You should get to set with not only it's not only the look, they are a functional part of our body.
Let's speak the doctor.
Yeah, it's definitely healthy to have all your teeth. Not having your teeth changes your whole shape of your face, too.
Sounds good. Ne?
That's it. All of you should read Shankaracharya. I love Shankaracharya. When I found his first book when I was only 14, and out of the other scriptures that I read, the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Ramakrishna, Autobiography of Yogi, Shankaracharya, and then all the scriptures that I read since, all the scriptures that we have here, I found that for me, Shankaracharya has extreme clarity in his descriptions and his teachings of life and realization, of journey in the world as Atma, within a physical body, which comes from the world. Understand that your body came from the union of your mother and father. It's all a dynamic energy that built all of the different components of the earth to construct a human body. It's absolutely amazing. And then our consciousness, our awareness goes into the human body. I have 3 children. I've watched all of them be born. I've participated in the birth of all 3 of them. They're all born at home. So they're all born in the bedroom at home. So I was able to see and participate in the birthing, the process. All of you who are mothers understand this, but it's a wondrous thing that a human body is produced out of your human body as a woman, but also with the chronic essence of a man from the union. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And we come into the world through this process of Prakriti, of God making a body for us. And then we assume, because we're so integrated into the body, that this is us. That what we taste and touch and hear and smell and everything, that's us. This is me. Now that's called ignorance. It's called untruth. It isn't true. The illusion is put together for our enjoyment, the illusion of life on earth. It isn't meant to terrify us or punish us. That has to do with how we view life. Ignorance in the mind produces a thought that I have to change this, I have to change that, I have to do this and this and this and that to make life better, to make life the way that I want it to be. And so with that false idea, in the mind only, it isn't us. The mind takes us along for the ride, and we are tortured. We're tortured by the mind, how it perceives everything unclearly. The world, the life, everything that's happening with us, to us, and with and to everybody else in life, and also the ones that are close to us, or our family, or someone that we love. They're also embodied in this world of illusions that produce delusions, and so they don't perceive correctly. They're making wrong assumptions about their life, about the world. Knowledge is absolutely critical just to give us some clarity. And once we have clarity, this is the bliss that is spoken of in the scriptures. This is the bliss that Krishna spoke of to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. And that bliss is ready and available. And it comes from knowledge, from having knowledge. The knowledge, so many people listen to spiritual teachers, and even gurus, even popular gurus that wrongly teach that this knowledge is spoken of in the scriptures is acquired from books. And so this John, this knowledge, they read the scriptures and they're just trying to find the truth in the scriptures. They'll never find it. The truth is not in the scriptures. Just give a little bit of thought. You have a book, okay? And you're reading the book, and there's a letter printed on the book. Hopefully it's been printed correctly. Hopefully the editing hasn't messed it up. But we look at the letters, and the letters process through our mind, our brain, according to the languages that we know. And the letters represent ideas and thoughts. That's all. The understanding, the misunderstanding is happening with our perception. The knowledge isn't coming from the books. It's hard for a spiritual teacher to talk about knowledge because most of them have no knowledge. They're not enlightened. They can't see the way. They can't see the truth. But once you see the truth in the light, knowing, and it happens just like that. It's like you have knowledge. It's not a slow process. You see everything correctly, and you're still bound by your old habits, but you're elevated above your old habits. You're not succumbing to your habits anymore, and not just your physical habits, but your mental habits and your emotional habits that we have that are very, very strong. That those continue to process in the world, but we see those as a process. We see that they're not us. And so that's what enlightenment is. So some call that prabdha, karma that's already in action, already in motion, and we just go on fumes until it stops. And it's exactly like that. Exactly. You read about it in the scriptures, and you think, how is that possible? How can that ever be possible? And I'm so far away from it. My understanding isn't clear. My understanding is vague, and then I have episodes of misunderstanding and despair. I get involved in the world deeply, and then I find my way out again and again. I might have some clarity in that direction, and that's how a person that is aspiring for knowledge, for truth, that's how they live. Because they don't have a guru. If you have a guru, you always have a clear path. The path that the guru describes is always the same. It's always right there before you, and you can choose. You can go to the left, or you can go to the right. You can do the right way, or you can do the wrong way. The choice is always available to you. Now, if you're facing the direction of the wrong way, and not the right way, and you're determined to go that direction, but you get this idea that I want to go into the direction of light, of truth, it's hard to turn around your intention from the world to your intention into the spirit world. The spirit world is real. We think that this world is really dynamic and real. The spiritual world is much, much, much more real than this world is. And there's everything there. There's nature, there's trees, there's animals. All the people where we will go have beautiful attitudes. They have beautiful understanding. We won't encounter anybody that is mean or quarrelsome or troublesome. They'll be like-minded people of us that will care about us and will care about them. And Smells, for example. We smell beautiful perfumes and flowers and things of enjoyment, but the smells in the divine realm are 100 times more smells that we have here. There's much, much, much more beautiful smells than what we smell here. And then what we see, the light there, the colors that we see here, the other primary colors that all the other colors come from, in the spiritual realm, there's colors that we've never seen before. Hundreds of colors that we had no idea of, beautiful colors that we can't even conceptualize because we haven't seen them. We're, we're living a dark life on Earth, and you can go through it safely if you have a guru. If you don't have a guru, look at other people. Look at your family members, look at your friends that are on the spiritual path, that are dedicated and steadfast in the spiritual path, and look at their lives. Look at the meaning of their lives. What meaning do they have? You have no course. You have no course in life. What is their course of life? What is their meaning of life? Enjoyment, family, friends. We always have trouble with family, especially. And then we also have trouble with friends. And then we have trouble with our health. And then we have trouble in our dealings in the world. We're always having some troubles. When you finally turn yourself towards the light, away from the world and towards the light, then it's hard to turn yourself back to the darkness. It's really, really hard because you see clearly how much better it is. And you have a memory of that. So the world, the things that we are karmically really, really engaged in, might pull us back in to worldly entanglements. But we've had the experience of divinity, of the divine, and how beautiful it is. And then we have a way of turning ourselves back on the right course. And we always do, because the memory of it is so strong. Never completely choose the course of the world that the majority of people are on and that are living. It's really all so much easier than you think. There's no progression of the divinity of souls. I used to think back years ago, I thought I knew what my tendencies were. And all of my tendencies weren't good. I had some really good tendencies, but I also had some bad tendencies. Not terrible, they're just bad. And I thought, how could I ever be like Yogananda, for example? How could I ever be a man like that? How is that possible? And I thought that it was required. You have to become like that in order to have enlightenment, which is true that I found. But how could I become pure like that? I'm so far away from it. And I reason, even with all my sadhana, which hadn't produced any results for me that were substantial. I had an incredibly deep connection when I was living in India, when I was young. But when I came back into the world and I started to become mature, I got involved with life. But I still did my sadhana. But I thought self-realization is never going to happen to me in this life. That I'll come back, I'll reincarnate, and I'll be a little bit better. And then I'll reincarnate, and I'll be a little bit better. And that will continue until I become a great soul, a Mahatma, like Yogananda. And then in that life, I'll have a chance for self-realization. That was my reason. And my reasoning was based on my whole thought and my misunderstanding of the scriptures. But what I thought is totally untrue. Everything that I thought back then was untrue. None of it was true. You are pure right now. You would never go through a process to have enlightenment, to have self-realization. It's not a process. You are pure right now. You really think, because you are that. You are Atma. Do you really think that you have to go through the progression of literally the physical body, coming and going, coming into a womb, being born, living a whole life, coming into a womb, being born, living a whole life, coming into a womb, being born, living a whole life, that physical interaction is what's going to give you enlightenment, self-realization? No. The physical action doesn't produce self-realization. You can have self-realization right now. There's nothing preventing you. You have disbelief. When I say that, your thought is, that's not true for me. Well, it is true for you. I can show you how. It's really simple. It isn't hard. The only thing that makes it hard is our mind, the thoughts that we think. We don't have to change what we're doing. We don't have to change who we're with. We don't have to change the type of work that we do. We don't have to change the location. Wherever you go, whatever you're doing, you're still up. You're still pure. All you have to do is just put your attention on that. Now, it might take some time to fully integrate it into what you really are, but it's not a process, and it can be very quick. You are that. I mean, I went through this. Self-realization, God-realization came just like that, in just an instant, when my heart was purified, when my mind was purified. And I didn't do it. I told you what happened to me. I was meditating just on a regular day. Lucretius went there in Colorado, where I was, up in Summit County, up in the big mountains at 13,000 feet. Just like a regular day in my room, in the snow, and then at 10 a.m., and just the regular meditation that I do. And then someone came to this side of me. I felt their presence, just like you would. If somebody came up behind you right now, you would feel their presence, even if you didn't see them. Wouldn't you? You know that happens. So I felt the presence of somebody. And then that presence reached down with their right hand onto my chest. And I looked down because I was curious, what's going to happen? And why is he putting his hand on my chest? And then he started going like this with his hand, real fast. And then I looked, his hand was in like this tight, constricted, black goo. It was like black tar. It was like this stuff. This stuff was good. That stuff was bad. And he was literally, with his spiritual ability, of his power, he was removing all of my karma to purify my heart, so that my heart would be pure. When the heart is pure, what happens to the mind? Do you have to change anything that you're thinking? Anything? No. The mind becomes pure. It no longer thinks any bad thoughts. It'll process bad things and bad thoughts, but you never mistake that to be your problem or your trouble. Because you see that it isn't. You see that in the light, the way that the world really is, in the way that your life in the world really is. I'm just going to read a couple of things from Shankaracharya. If there's one scripture that you keep with you every day, you should have the scriptures of Shankaracharya, because they're amazing in their clarity. Owing to the desire to run after society, the passion for too much study of the scriptures, we all know people who just study scriptures. There's stacks and stacks and stacks of books, and they're so anxious to buy more books, and maybe they even write some books. Too much study of the scriptures and the desire to keep the body in good trim. People cannot attain to proper self-realization. So if you're obsessed with keeping your body in shape. If you're obsessed with reading the scriptures, I know people who are obsessed with reading the scriptures, they find it really hard to meditate because they prefer the active mind of reading the scriptures. And they get some juice from that. They get some happiness from that because the scriptures talk of enlightenment and freedom. Well, how about you experiencing the light and the freedom instead of just reading about it? Why don't you do it? Why don't you do what appears to be hard? And once you start, you'll find that it's actually easy. It isn't hard. Your mind is thinking that it's hard because your mind doesn't want to do it. Your mind doesn't want to stick itself to one point and not be thinking about this and this and that and this and that. It doesn't want to be held in one place. But then after, if you continue to practice that in your sadhana, your mind also starts to enjoy it. So then your mind becomes your friend. Your mind will remind you with a feeling of, I connect with the joy when I meditate. And your mind will also like that. And your mind will keep urging you to connect with joy. For one who seeks deliverance, which is liberation, from the prison of this world, samsara, and this world is a prison. There's good inmates, inmates really bad inmates. I haven't been to prison, but I have been to jail, similar to a prison, waiting to be processed and put into a prison. I know what it's like. Everyone in the world is in prison. Good people and bad people and really, really, really bad people. And some really, really, really good people. In this world, I found if there's like a tragedy, like a tornado, like the tornado that came through and took a good portion of the roof off of my house, destroyed lots of other houses, completely destroyed the hospital, did a lot of destruction. Good people came together and really went into action to help everybody. There were high school students that came to the door 2 days later because they saw that a portion of the roof was missing, and they asked permission to put a tarp on the roof to protect it from the rain. And the roof was up there really high. It was made out of slate, and I couldn't go up there and keep my balance. And to put a tarp up there, it wouldn't be possible. And so I said, yeah. So 4 or 5 high school students come up a ladder, got up on the roof, and I strung a tarp across where the roof was missing. And I just assumed it was going to cost something because everybody in life charges you for everything. Even if it's information, they charge you for information. So I just assumed that there was going to be some charge. And I asked, how much value? He said, nothing. And then I saw they were going to all the neighbors and doing that. There's really good people. There's a lot of people that'll help you complete and but there's also a lot of bad people. For one who seeks deliverance from the prison of the world, samsara, those 3 desires have been designated by the wise as strong iron fetters to shackle one's feet. Understand that your feet are shackled. You are imprisoned. You can think in your mind all sorts of things. That's your mind thinking of things that are pleasant or unpleasant. But what has hold of you? We all know that in our feelings, our deepest feelings, is something isn't right. We can't really do as we want to do. Something has a hold of us. Something that has an influence on us. Even though we want to do the best thing, we want to do the right thing, or we want to become the best, or we want to do the best. Something is always preventing us from doing that. He who is free from them truly attains to liberation. the lovely odor, which is hidden by a powerful stench due to its contact with water and the like, manifests itself as soon as the foreign smell has been fully removed by rubbing. We've experienced this in life. I think it's interesting that Shankaracharya uses examples in daily life that people can relate to. If you listen to enough stuff by sometimes you understood that I give you examples in daily life. And many of these examples aren't in the scriptures. They're just coming from my daily life. And I see how God works in daily life. So how to get free of these shackles that we can't even see, we don't even know. It has a hold on us. Guru guided sadhana. There's another way. Without guru guided sadhana, you don't have to have a guru to have realization. The easiest way is bhakti, is love for God. And you can do that on your own. You don't need any inspiration. I noticed that some of the organizations, they're always doing new things to maintain enthusiasm. So they're always having new activities. And this weekend, the activity is music. And they're having their music in Carnegie Hall, where Yogananda used to give some speeches. So they bring all sorts of historical places and associations of Yogananda to inspire us. And then they put that together with music. And then however many people go, 100 or 200, they go there for the way it feels. It feels good. Remembrance of Yogananda, association with where he was and where he gave satsang. It feels good. That source of feeling good, it's right inside of you. When the stench of worldliness, which is dwelling on things that don't exist, illusion, they stink. They're never going to produce anything good for you. And when attachment to those things are removed, there's a beautiful fragrance of life. It was always there. When our nose smells the bad odor, when the bad odor is removed, everything is lovely and wonderful. Everything smells lovely and wonderful. The light is lovely and wonderful. The people, their interactions with people is wonderful because you have understanding. You start to have understanding of why they think what they think, why they do what they do. And then you understand that they are being manipulated. And it isn't them. They also desire freedom from the prison. When they're in prison, they can't be their best selves when they're in prison. So you have compassion for them. So bhakti is a path. You could do bhakti with Kriya Yoga sadhana. That's what I've always done. I've always been natural tendency towards bhakti, towards love and devotion for God's incarnations, and also love and devotion for God's devotees. I didn't have so much exceptional love for God's devotees because they all had bad tendencies. Almost all of them had bad tendencies. But as long as I saw the bad tendencies, I didn't see their divinity. I didn't see that they also were struggling to see the light, to do the best, to be the best, to also live in love and live in a wonderful, joyous life. They also want that, but they don't see the path. They don't see the way. A guru shows us the way. So if we have a natural tendency for bhakti, we can continue with that and do Kriya Yoga sadhana. That's why Kriya Yoga sadhana is taught as you don't have to change your religion. You don't have to change your family group. You don't have to change your family. You don't have to do anything to practice Kriya Yoga sadhana. And you can practice it secretly. Nobody has to know about it. Nobody ever knew about my practice. When, when, when I became married, my wife knew about my practice because she also practiced. So we practiced together. Other family members, they didn't know. She and I didn't talk about it with anyone. We just did our sadhana, we did our practice. So you don't have to have any spiritual discussions with your family. You don't have to try to manipulate them onto the spiritual path. First of all, it'll be impossible. They'll come to the spiritual path eventually when they're ready. You can't be coaxed, even though we would like to see that. We have to stop putting our emphasis in trying to manipulate the forces in the world that confine them and manipulate them just because we care about them. Practice the best help you can do for your family members that aren't doing Bhakti or sadhana is to do your sadhana and get to superconsciousness, which is the awareness and bliss, Satchitananda. And that fragrance that you bathe in when you come out of your meditation and go into the kitchen, go into the whatever rooms you associate with them, they'll notice a difference about you. So what is well, to ask you, what's different about you? You seem to be happy all the time. You're always miserable like us. Right? What are you happy about? What is it that you're happy about? What have you acquired that you're happy about? Because they see happiness as something good that you acquired. When you acquire something good, you can value. So the more things we can acquire that's good, the happier it will be. That's what the world thinks. Spiritual knowledge, you attain anything in the world, has nothing to do with the world. In fact, it has to do with letting go of your cares about the world, which doesn't matter what you care about. The world's going to do what it does because the world is controlled, not by us, but by God. These people are organizations that say, we want to bring about world peace. You don't have the power to do that. Be honest with me. Be realistic. Tell me the truth. You don't have the power to purify a person that practices Kriya Yoga, even one person. Show me the person that's been purified through Kriya Yoga. Show them to me. Name them. Bring them up on the stage. Let us see him or her. Let's talk to them, especially to get advice. There's no such person. There was Paramahansa Yogananda. There was James Lan. Yogananda brought James Lan up on the stage many, many times. He was his most pure disciple. Only James Lan. And then there was another man. What was his name originally? The one that a lot of miracles happened around. The American disciple. No, the disciple Yogananda. I always talk about him. I just can't remember.
Oliver Black.
Yeah. What was his first name? Oliver Black. Yeah. Oliver Black was another one. Very, very highly purified in consciousness and realization. And so Yogananda had a beautiful, great association with him because he understood and he realized what Yogananda was talking about. Gaudamata also had this enlightenment, this realization. She just wanted to stay in a room. She had they never disclosed it. Maybe somebody knows properly, but she had some ailment that kept her bedridden, and so she didn't come out of her room very much. She practically lived in her room, and there are some pictures of her occasionally when she would come out. It's some kind of disease that would have flare-ups. We could probably read some of the diaries and kind of get an idea of what it is, because people have it. But she did a lot of contemplation. She did a lot of sincere practice. that she deeply, deeply loved her guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. Paramahansa Yogananda interacted with her very little. And he said, it's because I don't have to. She understands. She's connected. I don't have to bring my physical body to her so often. And in fact, when she was dying, Yogananda was there, but he didn't go into the room and be with her as she was dying. He stayed in the car. And he told the devotees in the car that she was dying. And we think that the guru, with the devotee that loves him, that he loves her, would go there and be with her at the time of death. But he didn't want to introduce himself into the dying process. The dying process is when we leave everything of design, everything of manifestation, and we go into the great ultimate realization of the primordial unmanifested reality. Advaita Vedanta, I believe, is the description of it. That's the realization of the ultimate truth. So he said, you can go in the room now. And he said, he told them, these two disciples, he said, touch the top of her head. It's a peculiar thing to say, isn't it? I've been with people as they die. I've seen the soul go out of the body, and I've touched the body after the soul goes out of it, not immediately, but later. And the body's, after a while, the body becomes cold. But he asked them to go in right away. She just left her body and touch the top of her head. So they said we went in, and we were a little hesitant, but we touched the top of her head. And they said it was like touching a hot iron. Top of her head was hot. Yogananda said that her soul was successful in being fully liberated, and that's a sign of full liberation, is that the soul goes out through the top of the head. And then that heat, which is part of the process, you can feel it physically. It heats up physically here, where the soul goes through. These are all tangible things that you can see someone's spiritual state, or not. There's proof of it. We never have to take anybody's word for are they realized or are they not realized. You'd be very wary of somebody who advertises that they have the ultimate realization. Remember in the autobiography of Yogi, I think it was his brother that hired two guys. Just sort of what I call them fools. And they were trying to get Yogananda to stay on. And his brother wanted him to stay on. And they said, we are the highest manifestation of an enlightened person. And we'll be your guru. And they said this to him to try to get him to stay at home, close with his father. And of course, he could see that they weren't what they were. And I don't remember who. Maybe one of you remember it was an autobiography of Yogi, but somebody known told him, get away from this man. These men are fools. So it's easy to tell if somebody is true or not. It's hard for some people once you teach them the secrets of seeing into another person's mind and consciousness. It isn't hard at all. There's quite a few so-called spiritual enlightened people. I went across the street to see them. I can feel what is true and what is not true. Often when we talk to somebody, we can tell if they're being honest or not. We don't have to see any proof. We have an intuition. And somebody's talking to us and they're presenting a certain way of life, they're presenting a certain attitude. And we can see that it isn't true. We can feel it. We have this ability. You can do the same with scriptures and with people. You can do the same. The more we are in that state of truth and meditation, which happens after pratyahara. After pratyahara, you're in a true state of meditation, and it's very quickly and actively, through heat and friction, removing your karma. It's bringing up memories, thoughts, and they're being put in the fire of truth, of purity, and they're being destroyed. And that is a process. It goes, it goes, it goes. It can go really quickly. It can be a huge fire, or it can just be a little fire. It depends on our connection, how much we're connected, which depends on how our devotion. So, my example of my karma being destroyed, it was destroyed in minutes. What was left of it? I was doing sadhana for 30, 40 years. So I was in the process, but whatever was left, and I think it was pretty substantial. It was by somebody's action. I don't know who it was. Obviously, it was somebody very pure and very had great ability to remove another person's karma. Obviously, a great guru who did this for me, but he never presented his name. I never thought intuitively when his name on him. He said, why would I care? What difference does it make if I know his name or not? It doesn't make any difference. I was in his presence, and I felt the result of his action on my karmic, my life that was integrated with my karma. And I told you the story. After that, I didn't think about it. I never dwell on why is this? What was this? Is this real? Is this meaningful? I never bring my mind into the discussion of spiritual experience. First of all, my mind doesn't know. So why would I encourage him to think about something he's not going to be able to explain to me or even help me with? So I made that a habit. I didn't dwell on it. But I told you it wasn't until the next morning. I'm sorry, that afternoon, because that was the morning. I would also meditate in the afternoons. I would think all day. And then I was all by myself. I was completely by myself for 3 months. Other than when I would deliver a painting to the usually interior designers and had a storefront that sold furniture and things like that. I would deliver a painting to them, and I knew them well in various places. It's usually a drive to Steamboat Springs or to Aspen or different places for where I was. Close by, but it was a drive. So I was by myself completely, and I was by myself in the car. And then I would bring in the painting. I would say hello. They would say hello, and I had a brief discussion about something. They would write me a check. And then I would go to the bank and I would cash the check. And then I would FedEx it back to Florida, where my wife lived. So I just had a few words. Occasionally I would go to the grocery store to buy groceries. But I never spoke to anybody in the grocery store. I go through the aisles, never spoke to anybody. Went to checkout, never spoke to anybody, and then went back to where I was living. I didn't ever speak to anybody there. I didn't speak to anybody at the gas station. I never spoke to anybody when I would go down to the river and look for trout or animals or go up into the mountains of snow. I never spoke to anybody. There's nobody there. I never thought about speaking to anybody. So I was in what you would call a very secluded environment, painting and sadhana. That's all I do. Painting and sadhana every day. And that particular day was the day that I was saying Divine Mother, because she came to me afterwards. And so it was definitely orchestrated by Divine Mother through a divine person. I didn't ask her questions. She told me everything without asking questions. She explained everything to me for a couple of hours. I didn't have to ask anything. This is what spiritual realization is. Isn't us thinking and thinking and thinking and then coming to a conclusion. It's just the opposite. It's where we eliminate all thoughts. Thoughts are useless. All of my thoughts about spirituality, they were all wrong. None of them were true. And I was always contemplating spirituality. Always. Every thought was wrong, not true. And I thought I had some pretty good thoughts. I thought they were pretty good. And they're all, none of them were true. Like the fragrance of the sandalwood, the perfume of the Supreme Self, which is covered with the dust of endless, violent impressions. Now understand, Shankaracharya said violent impressions. It doesn't mean somebody committing violence. I see violence in person in people that hit us with violent thoughts. You can be in their presence and that will hit you with violent thoughts. Here in the ashrams after here. I've been with some people and they were attacking me with their own thoughts, silently where nobody else could see it.
You could see, you could hear it, Guruji. I mean, you could sense it.
Well, yeah, you don't hear it. They're impressions. So thoughts are impressions, meaning they impress on you what the attitude of the thought is. So if they're saying, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, this is great, but they're thinking all these different negative things about you, every one of you can sense what their thoughts are, what their true thoughts are. You can see through the charade. And I can just see it more clearly than the average person. So that's all it is. It's the same intuitive ability that you have. I can just see a little bit more into the astral aspect of it, most likely. That's violence. It's just as violent as picking up a club and hitting somebody. Hating somebody, disliking somebody, criticizing somebody, that's violence. That's where Shankaracharya calls them violent impressions. The violence comes from somewhere. Now, I understand this. I've lived in a lot of ashrams. I've seen people freak out a lot when you're confronted with a pure environment. There's some people that will just freak out. So when it happens, it's happened recently. It isn't something new to me. It might be new to most people, but it isn't to me. I've lived in ashrams back in the 1970s. So I've seen this happen before. It's not uncommon. Violent impressions embedded in the mind. So they're embedded in the mind. So that they can attend satsang, for example. You're in person. But these violent impressions are embedded in their mind. And they might touch my feet, but the violent impressions are taking the spirituality, the truth, the purity that's being described in satsang, the truth, and the truth itself makes them mad. Literally it makes them mad, but also makes them mad. As in crazy. And then they get upset. And then when they get upset, they get mad. And so what violent impressions are. We see this happen to people. But it happens in spiritual environments, meaning where there's a ashram and there's a satsang as well. The violent impressions in the mind, when purified by the constant friction of knowledge, is again clearly perceived. So we've only heard a little description of Sri Yukteswar, not very much, but we've heard that he was really tough, that he didn't tolerate any sensitivity, meaning any emotionalism about you not liking this or not liking that, or feeling that you're being mistreated, you're not being given the proper food, you're not being told the proper thing. He didn't tolerate any of that. If somebody started thinking that way, you would tell them to get out. Get out of this ashram. There's no place for you. There's a lot of places for you, but not here. And he was that kind of guru. And there are gurus like that. I met Mahatmas like that when I was 16. So I saw that Mahatmas aren't what people think they are. And they think, oh, they're lovely and they're sweet and they'll agree with me on everything because they're so full of love, and they never do anything disagreeable to the way I think or the way I want to do. They understand that everybody's against me because they're so pure. And they understand my true desires, and they see only the goodness in me, and they're lovely and sweet and quiet and embedded in joy and bliss all the time. They would never correct me because they know that the universe will think, no. Yes, they will. A guru will sees what your tendencies are. And some gurus will create a situation. It's in the autobiography of Yogi. Sri Yukteswar did it with Yogananda and his fellow disciples that were jealous. Put them in different positions so that they would clash for the purpose of the clashing. For the purpose of those violent impressions to manifest themselves. Go through the facade of bliss and then get down to the reality of what their consciousness is and expose what they really are so that maybe they can see themselves. Sometimes it takes a big event to shake somebody up, their ways of thinking. First of all, that's true. Whenever there's a big event, like a big happening, usually emotionally in our lives, it forces us to take a different look at ourselves, take a different look at our surroundings, take a different look at life. It forces us to completely reevaluate the things we care about. A major way of that is when there's a death and with someone that we really care about, which shakes us up. It automatically it makes the person think, makes you think, what is life all about? They start thinking about God. If you're going through some trial, some tribulation, sure, your mind will be stimulated to think about all the wrongs, think about all the different things that are wrong, and the people and what they're doing and the situation. That's automatic with the mind because it finds the body in a difficult position. But it also is so destructive to us because we identify with the mind and we identify with the body. And at those times we think, maybe I'm not the mind. Maybe I'm not the body. Because I'm observing all of this. It's affecting me. And I don't like it to affect me. How can I disconnect from it? How can I disconnect from the mind that was thinking all these different thoughts? How can I disconnect from the body and have some rest just to get away from it? Well, you can. A true guru will show you exactly, scientifically, how to do it. It can be hard or it can be easy. It depends on our attitude. If this is where Bhakti is so effective. If we really love somebody, if we really, really love them, they're going to have some faults. but we're not going to perceive them. We're going to see that person as being perfect. Exactly the kind of person that we want to be with. We love that person. And then in life, throughout the day or the week or the month, there's some things that they exhibit that aren't so great. We don't even acknowledge it because of the love that we have. It's like it. We don't even acknowledge it. We don't even think about it. That's what love will do. So if you really, really love God, or if you really love an incarnation of God, like Krishna, for example, if you cultivate Bhakti for Krishna by worshiping Krishna through Krishna's Murti, or divine form in a painting, for example. We don't have any photographs. We have paintings of Krishna. And this is one thing that really, really appealed to me when I was young, is I heard a story about a yogi, a Mahatma yogi, that had a little simple murti of baby Krishna. There's just a little rock, and she saw the form of Krishna in the rock. Meaning, when you look at clouds, you'll see different forms in the clouds. You say, "Oh, that's a cow. Or that's a horse." The cloud isn't a cow. It isn't a horse. It comes from our mind. So, by being devoted to this murti of Krishna, that to someone else just looks like a rock. Every morning, with arti, with loving thoughts, with loving contemplation, and we do it every day, regularly, every day, day after day after day. The form of Krishna becomes frozen by our devotion, and the form of Krishna starts to become more dynamic and more electric as a true form. So I like the story of this yogini. She had this form of baby Krishna with him, and she would walk along the Ganges, and she would worship her rock in the form of Krishna. Simple life, similar to some of the villagers here, much more simpler. And if their day was filled with bhajans and contemplation, meditation, superconsciousness, walking in nature, walking along the Ganges. For those of you who have meditated on next to the Ganges, your meditation will always be wonderful. If you just meditate on the side of the Ganges, always. This is why they say the Ganges is pure. Because if you sit on the bank of the Ganges and meditate, you go right through pratyahara, and you go right into meditation. That's the power and the magic of the Ganges. That's the purity of the Ganges. That's the purity that we talk about. It's just associating with the Ganges is transformative. Actually transformative to you. It'll remove all your karma. This is a fact. So she worshipped just this little rock. But, people say, don't worship idols. Well, she's not worshiping the rock. She's worshiping Krishna. If you could tell her, don't worship that rock, she would say, I'm not worshiping this rock. I'm worshiping by Krishna. Because that's what she is focused on. So that's what she sees. So that's bhakti. Think of bhakti as your love experiences with a woman, for example. As a man, I've had love experiences with women. It's similar to that. When you're in that magic, when you're in that spell of love, all you see is love, and you're greedy for it. You don't want it to ever go, and you want more and more and more of it. You want to be with them as much as possible.
Sigue teniendo jatones para darles pela.
So most of us have had this experience. Now, translate that experience into, I'm by myself nobody else, sitting by myself in my room and doing my sadhana. Who do I have love for? Don't think about objects. And as men, don't think about a woman's form. Think about objects. Think about that which is unseen, that which is formless. When you do your meditation, when you do your sadhana, and know that that formless is Krishna, for example. If you're devoted to Krishna, this is the ultimate Krishna, is the formless Krishna. And that's you're not just at the feet of Krishna, you've merged with Krishna when you worship the form, when you worship Krishna in his true form, which is formless. You know, that's what Kriya Yoga sadhana is. It's meditation in the formless. We don't meditate on a particular guru. The Hari Mahasaya never, ever said meditate on me. Sri Yukteswar never, ever said meditate on me. Never said worship me. The Hari Mahasaya never said worship me. Mahavatar Babaji never told the Hari Mahasaya worship me. So why does everybody say that they worship Babaji? Where is that coming from? Mahavatar Babaji never told us to worship him. Where is this coming from? So what's the origin of this things that people have where they worship Babaji? Where have they been misled? I suppose if we're told, not actually told in language, but we're persuaded that what we should do is we should worship Babaji. First of all, how would you go about worshiping Babaji? If you're going to do it, then do it really good. Do it the best. So if you're going to worship Babaji, then know Babaji. You would have to know him. And Babaji, just like us, it isn't the physical body. So we don't have to go up to the Himalayas and find Babaji to worship the Babaji if that's what we're determined to do. Which I would imagine he would strongly discourage us from doing. If that's what we wanted to do, you would have to have some idea of the form of Babaji. We all know the popular form of Babaji. In the Kriya Yoga, Babaji's Kriya Yoga for everyone. I post. I really only post images of Babaji. There's no photographs of Babaji. They're all images. And where do the images come from? They come from our minds. Where does the idea come from? What Babaji looks like? Comes from our minds. Most of it comes from a description of what Babaji looked like from the autobiography of the yogi. That's where it comes from. There's a couple of people later, much later after the book came out, that saw this is really popular. I want to also say that I'm in the lineage of Babaji. And so they say that I saw Babaji, and Babaji looked like what Yogananda described. They can't think of anything else. So they're relying on what Yogananda said. So is that what Babaji looks like? Okay, maybe it is. But that's his physical form. It's not his spiritual form. So by worshiping Babaji's idea, what we think his physical form is, you really think that's going to be effective? I mean, why are you doing it? Why would you do it? You know, maybe this is disturbing to some of you. I don't mean don't respect Babaji. We have a huge Babaji murti in the satsanga. We have images of all the gurus, and we all do pranams to Babaji's image and images of the gurus. But when we meditate, We don't meditate on their forms. We meditate on God. All the saints, Mahatmas, avatars, divine people, we all come from God. So we worship God. By worshiping God, we're worshiping all the divine avatars and Mahatmas. Then there's no confusion about, well, is he a true avatar or not? We worship all of them. We don't worship the ones in art. We worship all of those. It doesn't matter that if we know what their form looks like or not. It's just the physical body. They cast it off. There's no definite promise that when they leave their physical body that they're going to retain the same book. Shankaracharya said that he was able to change what he looked like. All of us will be able to change what we look like when we live in the spiritual realms. There's many of them. We can change what our appearance is like. Just like we can change somewhat what our appearance is like here. But it's amazing if you see a woman without makeup, and then you see her with makeup, and all put together. It's a beautiful sari or dress, and it's like, wow, what a change! We can change our appearance. Men can change their appearance. Women can change their appearance, but not like you can in the divine realms. You can change your whole entire appearance. It's still going to be you. And your friends will still know it's you. The ones that you love will still know it's you. They recognize you by your presence. That's the one I know. That's the person I know. That's the soul I know. I can smell their fragrance. I can feel their vibration of their presence. It's unique. It's unique to them. It's not superficial. It's not the color of their skin. It's not the way they wear their hair. Babaji is not what you see in the murky and the satsang. It's an image of, but it isn't Babaji. So usually after Arti, I go to the murti of Babaji and I hold his feet, I touch his feet. But I'm feeling the presence of Babaji. I'm touching his feet. The physical body is going to do what you think. What you're thinking, the physical body follows and does. So my physical body goes and holds the feet of the murti because I'm thinking of Babaji. I'm not thinking of the form of Babaji. I'm thinking of the essence. I'm thinking of the presence. And then you find that what you're thinking of is with you all the time. I found this with death of ones that we love. I had enough death experience. As you get older, you're going to have more and more experience with death. It's a peculiar thing. The one that dies, it can be a person, or it could be a dog, a pet that you love. But I've had two women that I've known for 40 years. They both died last year and the year before that. Women I've known for 40 years. And I've had a lot of dogs die. Three of my most recent loved dogs that I had, all three of them died and relatively close to each other. It's strange living in a house with three dogs because their presence is, the dog will let their presence be known. They are not going to be ignored. You can't ignore a dog in your house. So they become a big part of your life. 24 hours. They might bark in the middle of the night. We have dogs here. We have 5 dogs here. They live in this house, and then 15 more in the other house. So we live with dogs. The dogs are just right behind me. They're all sleeping right now. But Even if they're not barking, you know that they're here in the house. How do you know that? Well, their presence, you can feel their presence here. And then you interact with their movements, their barking. You're coming and going when we let them outside, bring them back in, when we feed them. We're interacting with their form and action. But we can always feel their presence. And then you take one dog out of this ashram, you can feel that you're missing. Does not here. I always said that about them. But you find as you have more experience with death, when the soul leaves permanently, it's not coming back, you start to perceive that it never left. It was still here. That's because you carry them. We've all heard the stories. And we've seen the postcards and the letters and the pictures. They literally, they continue to live in you, in your heart. And I found this with people too, not just people that die. I found this with my wife. I found this with my children that I never see anymore. I never see my wife anymore. I never see my children anymore. But they're still in my heart. Because I really had a love relationship with them. So I don't feel that they're gone from me, that they're missing from me. So I wish them the best in their lives. I don't want them to be suffer or hurt or have any troubles. So I literally, when I'm contemplating, I wish them well. I ask Divine Mother to make their life as good as possible in every way. And so far, all of them are doing extremely well. So I have no worries about them. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to have Kriya Yoga initiation. So any of you that have already been initiated, you're welcome to attend. I encourage you to attend, because we'll revisit the Kriya Yoga techniques. And the Kriya Yoga techniques, I'm not going to tell you that they're big, powerful techniques that are going to change you, because they're not. The technique doesn't change you. There's nothing powerful about the techniques. Your only techniques, they don't bring about divine beings and realization and these things. They're techniques of you achieving pratyahara. The techniques themselves are not meditation. The people that are teaching Kriya Yoga, they don't tell you this. It's important that you know. How are you going to progress if you don't know what you're doing? I've heard so many people come to me from Ananda Self-Realization Fellowship and also Kriya Yoga International, where you would think that they were doing a better job explaining. And people, they don't know. And these are people I interact with. And I ask them, what were you taught? If they're coming to me. So I think it's important to ask them. So they tell me exactly what they were taught, how they perform the technique. I usually don't say that anything is wrong with that, because there really isn't anything wrong with the technique that they taught, even though it's different from what I teach. It's still not, the essence of it isn't different. But what's really lacking is that they haven't been told why they're doing it. And I found this with every person I've spoken to. And I've only spoken to a couple of people. I've spoken to hundreds of people over the course of the 14 years that I've been teaching when I came out into public. Before I never saw anybody. I mean, literally nobody. I had no friends. I don't make friends. I never have, for some reason. I've never cultivated friends. And so I never had any friendships until I started doing the spiritual work. I never had any conversations with anybody. except for my wife. And so for 14 years I've been teaching, I interacted with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And all of them are, a lot of them are already practicing Kriya Yoga, but they're troubled. And I never say to them that I'll teach you the correct way. First of all, it's not true. It isn't that they've been taught incorrectly, or I have the real Shakti. Yeah, who taught you doesn't have the real Shakti. I have the real Shakti. It's all nonsense that mentally ill people want you to think. I simply tell them the purpose of what they're doing. And when they're told the purpose of what they're doing, I'll associate with what they're practicing already. And then it's like you feel a freedom that they never felt before, that, oh, now I understand why I'm doing this. I didn't understand before. So I couldn't do it correctly because I had all this, I didn't feel that it was right, because I said, well, you didn't feel it was right just only because you didn't understand why you were doing it. Anything that we do, if we don't understand why we're doing it, we're going to have confusion there as our partner. So people say that the techniques are secret, they're sacred, and the reason they're secret is because they're so powerful, and the reason they're secret is because they're so sacred. No. First of all, none of the techniques are secret. Expose yourself a little bit more to the truth before you start telling everybody what your opinion is. These techniques are available to every person. Always have been. None of them are secret. This is some mass belief that most people have, is that the techniques are secret. Sri Yukteswar, Lahirma Sahib, Yogananda said to keep it secret. Yeah, you should keep it secret. You shouldn't be having discussions with other people about the techniques. That's all it means. Don't discuss what you're doing and decide them. Keep it secret. Misunderstanding can create a little misunderstanding can, like a cancer, can go into another part. Misunderstanding through talking. Then it changes one person's thought. They change another 50 people's thoughts. They change another 50 people's thoughts, and then you have thousands of people misperceiving. Unless you have somebody who's independent, like I was always independent. I never asked for anybody's opinion about anything, ever. So the techniques are not secret. I wouldn't even say the techniques are sacred, because the techniques can be used for different things. The techniques can be used for evil things, not just good things. If you have evil intent, and you practice Kriya Yoga techniques, in particular, they're going to give you more power, more psychic power, because they stimulate the psychic regions in your spine. So you could use it for evil purposes. What's sacred about that? So we use the technique for divine purposes, for pratyahara. So they can effortlessly go into divine meditation. And that's where everything that's really happened. That's the airplane route. It's the meditation. When Yogananda speaks of meditation in the airplane route, this is what he's talking about. He's talking about, and he says it so clearly. He demonstrates it. He says, when the prana comes out of the fingertips, when the prana comes out of the genitals, when the prana comes out of the throat, when the prana comes out of the nose and the eyes and the ears and the taste and the touch, it goes into the Sushumna. It automatically elevates your consciousness, because the prana automatically itself, when you bring it all out of the body, it automatically goes into the Sushumna, and it goes up through the various chakras, enlightening the chakras, making a passageway. The The lotuses that are turned down start to turn up each chakra. You don't have to think about the chakra. You don't have to know anything about the chakra. It'll do what it does, even without your mind knowing what the chakras are. You don't have to know. The energy, the prana is going to do what prana does. So our attention should be on achieving pratyahara. That's all we have to do. You don't have to force your way into the spiritual realm. You certainly cannot mentally force your way into the spiritual realm. The mental process has nothing to do with it. So people are confused. People are misled. When you understand that the sadhana is to achieve pratyahara, then you feel that you can relax now. I don't have to make some divine knowledge, some divine experience. I don't have to have the meditation that I'm looking for. Just achieve pratyahara, and you will have the meditation that there is. That does exist, not in your imagination, but in reality. And all you have to do, you don't have to take my word for it. Take these techniques, take the Hong Song technique, for example, which is so easy to practice, and find out for yourself. Really dive in deep, which means let go of the world when you sit to do sadhana. Take it and place it on a shelf. It'll be fine without you, I guarantee. And then do the sadhana. Do the technique of Hong Song, do it properly, which is easy to do. And you will achieve pratyahara just with that. No other technique is needed. And then you'll have a divine meditation. I told you this from my experience. I was initiated by Mahatma Krishna Sukhanand. And the Hong Song mantra, remember, I was young. The Hong Song mantra wasn't what I expected. I thought it was going to produce some divine feeling. It was I'm for Mahatma. He has divine energy. By the technique that he gives me, some divinity will be manifested. And so I did the Hong Song. The shot to me is Soham. Nothing happened. There's no transformation. There's no divinity. There's no tranquility or bliss. So I thought, what's wrong? And so I asked him. He didn't speak very much English. He spoke a little bit. So I asked him, and I did communicate to him. He understood that I was confused because I was expecting something else to happen. And so I was a little disheartened by that. And his assistant at the time spoke better English. He told me, he said, just practice the technique and think about it. Don't try to hold it to some ideal that you have or what it should do. Just practice it. He said, you can do that. I thought, yeah, I can do that because it's so easy to do. And so I took him at his word. I was young. I was simple. I had no attachments. I had no diversions or of any sort. I never thought about anything other than my mother and father. So it was easy for me to do, to practice sadhana. So that's what I do. From that moment, when I left the ashram, went outside, and I had to go to the market to buy some fruit. I did the whole humso mantra the entire time as I was walking. With the breath coming in, the breath going out. First technique they taught was Khetri mudra. So I did Khetri mudra, and the breath coming in, breath coming out. The whole time I was walking, I was never told that meditation wasn't all the time. I was never told meditate for an hour, for example. I was never told to meditate. Time was never introduced in the initiation. did anything time related. So again, I was young, inexperienced, and so I didn't think about time. I didn't relate it to meditation. So when they said meditate, I assumed, and I knew that he meant meditate all the time. So that's what I did. So for the moment I left, I did Ketcher Mudra, and I did Sohan, Hongsa, and I did it continuously with concentration. I'd just been initiated. And so that whole impression of the guru, the experience of being initiated, that all came with me. It was all fresh. And so I was able to really dive deep in my concentration despite the fact that I was walking outside. Then I got to the market, I picked out some fruit to buy. And as I was waiting in the queue to check out, that's when it happened. That's what I had the divine feeling, the divine experience. And it was blissful, it was beautiful. It's a feeling. It wasn't a big explosion of light, it was a feeling of peace, feeling of bliss. And then I understood what Sat Anand means. It means truth is the consciousness of bliss. To be conscious of bliss is the ultimate devotion. That is devotion, is to be in that state of bliss. You're in union with God, because God is that bliss. Bliss is a manifestation of God, and it's within you, and it's tangible, and you can feel it. I'm just walking along, buying some bananas, oranges, and I'm connected with God, with the universe, with the primordial vibration, with God's presence in everything. All I did was that Hamsa mantra, along with pratyahara. I didn't know what pratyahara was, but I achieved pratyahara by being devoted to the technique. And then, as I said with Shankaracharya, when the stench of our own mind becomes gone, then the beautiful perfume of what is present, then it manifests. But the stinky thing has to leave first. And we all know that our mind can be very stinky. It always causes us to be upset about something or disappointed about something. It's all our mind. But I figured that out when I was real young. I was sitting on the bleachers watching my friends play basketball. I played every sport, not basketball. It's the bad end. So I understood I had no future of playing basketball. So I was watching them play basketball. And I was watching their bodies going for the ball, playing, animating. And I saw there's some energy inside all of them. It's the same energy. It's manifesting all this action as a game and producing different emotions and feelings in them. Like when they score a goal and it goes right through the hoop, and how they get happy. If they miss it, they get unhappy, and how they're all manipulated by the actions of life. And that we're all being animated by that one beautiful energy. And then we attach different feelings to it with what's happening in the world. And then we personally attach ownership to different things and ideas about different things, and that produces unhappiness, disappointment. So tomorrow you'll be taught that everybody who's had initiation can attend. With the, every time I give initiation, it's never cookie cutter, it's never the same. So it's going to be a fresh demonstration of how Kriya Yoga is practiced. And Kriya Yoga is always practiced in a unique way for every individual. It's never practiced the exact same way by every individual. So some people promote the idea that it has to be this way. No, it doesn't. Because you're always going to practice it in a different way than somebody else. If you do everything in a different way than anybody else, how would this be any different? So it'll be actually practiced in your own unique way, in subtle different variations. So I'll teach you some techniques for pratyahara, and I'll teach you that's all they are, and I'll teach you how to achieve that 100%, and it isn't hard. It just requires persistence every day. Just persistence every morning. That's all it requires in a particular concentration. And then divine things start happening to you, and you vibrate at a higher level. You start to appear to be more attractive, more beautiful, more powerful, more dynamic. Even if you're not doing anything in particular, you sort of become something really good, tangible, that other people don't have. And it starts to affect other people. Your presence starts to affect other people. It starts to uplift other people. So initiation takes about an hour. And then I'll teach you the techniques, how to practice them, when to practice them, the importance of being regular in the practice. I didn't introduce any spiritual beliefs. Spiritual beliefs are not required at all. No belief is required. So you can have your own personal beliefs if you're devoted to them. It doesn't matter. What matters is you practice the way I'm going to show you. I mean, divine things happen. Divine things, when the stench of ignorance is removed, the beautiful divine fragrance will appear immediately. And everybody will smell it a little different. I know a little bit about perfumes and colognes, for example, but a lot more than most people do. And I really like it. I really like perfumes, and I've been presented with different studies of fragrances, how they're produced, and how to experience a fragrance for the first time, like a perfume, for example. How to apply it. The best way to, at first, is to apply it to these little perfume, the little paper sticks, and you spray it on there. And the paper doesn't introduce any particular scent of its own, so you can get it enhances, it isolates the scent, so that you can just smell that, nothing else. So it's kind of like Kriya Yoga practice. You practice in a way that doesn't present any ideas, doesn't present any thoughts, doesn't present any, you have to do this, or you cannot do that. None of that matters. You can do anything that you want, anything that's particular to you. It's not harmful. It's not going to hurt your practice, as long as you're persistent. Just don't overthink all of those things. Don't think about material things when it comes to realization. Realization has nothing to do with your placement in the world. In the scriptures, there's example of a murderer, a dacoit who would hijack and steal from people and sometimes murder them. He became a renowned spiritual figure in presence in our lives now throughout history. It was in that time, in that lifetime of a realization, he was a murderer. Look at the transformation that happened to him. And then the Tiger Swami in autobiography, he was seeing that he had a transformation. He was abusing tigers, and then he came to understand that that wasn't correct. And then he started working with tigers. Anybody can have a transformation if they just get a little sample of that divine bliss. It can be transformed into ghosts. And the Tiger Swami, he didn't become no longer not involved with tigers. He continued to be involved with tigers, but in the right way, in a good way. He didn't go away from tigers. So ourselves, we don't have to go away from what we're doing. We don't have to go away from our family. We don't have to go away from the girl or the boy that we love. We don't have to be married or unmarried. It doesn't matter if you're young or you're old. It doesn't matter if you believe in Krishna or Christ or anything else. It doesn't matter. It's a universal experience. It comes from that divine reality. All of our thoughts don't matter. All of our thoughts are not going to persist throughout eternity. But that reality always will, and we will persist all throughout eternity. So we have about 20 minutes for any discussion, any questions that you have, anything at all you want to talk about. If you have any violence inside of you, then express that now.
Guruji, I have a question.
Okay.
May you please share more about if there is any impact on spiritual sadhana if you have good or bad relationship with your parents? And it's not only about how it affects us physically. For example, if you have an argument, of course, it would be more difficult to meditate. But it's maybe more in terms of how you perceive them, what you think about them, what's your connection with them. Is there any relation here?
Well, that's a good question because I was always strongly involved with my mother and my father. Not my brother. My brother was a lot older than I was. He was gone, and I was starting to grow up. But I always had real strong interaction with my mother and father. They were always a big force in my life, even when I grew up. I was still with them all throughout their life, actually. Now that comes to come. I was always present for them. But it definitely wasn't always a good relationship. My mother was very abusive, mentally, emotionally, and physically. She would hit me. And I was afraid of her. I was afraid of her as a child and as an adult. I was afraid of her. So that fear continued all throughout adulthood. And up until about 2 years before she died, because I was with her, helping her, taking care of her. And a lot of things started, between she and I, a lot of things started to resolve themselves. And there was one episode in particular where she abused me worse than she ever had before. 2 years before she died. That's what I was afraid of. I was always afraid of some confrontation. But I never, ever reacted to her abuse, ever. I never disagreed with her. I never objected to what she was saying. I just kept silent. If she got into a rage and started hitting me, I would just let her hit me. I didn't respond. Just let her until she would get tired of me. Or she would amuse me emotionally and never affected me. So the question is no. There's nothing to do with it. It's all your life in the world. And life is temporary. So I had my parents in my life for their whole entire life. Well, in life once I was born. So they had a lot of life before me. It had nothing to do with my sadhana, or it definitely had nothing to do with my realization. So no. With some advice I would give, and this is universal advice, no matter how obnoxious your parents can be, never react to them. Never argue with them. Never say anything. Never say anything mean to your parents. I can say that throughout their whole entire life, I never quarreled with them. I never tried to make them see my perspective. I never felt hurt by them, by their misunderstanding of me, because they completely misunderstood me, always. And I never, ever disrespected them. I never talked back to them. I would never, ever say anything that I thought would hurt my mother or father. That would be, just the thought of that is horrible to me. To ever say anything mean to them. But that's the best way to live with your mother and father. That should be respected. Whether they're wonderful or whether they're terrible, they should be respected. Because they are your mother and father. It's just the divine way. It's just the way of God. And all your other relationships, that's completely different. It's not the same as the relationship with mother and father. But okay, one thing you should know is I still knew my purpose. So what I wanted to do, I did it, regardless of what my mother and father thought. I did it. And no matter how much they tried to persuade me, no matter how much they said I was going to put myself in a dangerous situation, or how foolish, it was that I was doing, or how stupid, or how dangerous. But I made up my mind to do something. I did it, regardless of the opinion of my mother and father. And that's for anything I wanted to do. The one mantra that they taught me was, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't. You're not able to, you're not able to, you're not able to, you're not able to. You're not smart enough, you're not smart enough, you're not smart, you're not smart, you're not smart. You'll fail, you'll fail, you'll fail. You can't, you can't, you can't. That was the mantra throughout my whole childhood and my adulthood. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't try to persuade them that I can. I just did it. I knew that I could do it, and I did it. I never told them that I did it. I never bragged about my successes. Ever. I never told them about my successes. They didn't know. They still thought I was that stupid boy. I couldn't achieve anything. So, even interactions in all your relationships, they're very similar to that. We can't, we find ourselves trying to persuade others to understand us, to think well of us, that we're being honest with them, being true with them, and we'll always do the right thing and the good thing for them. And for one reason or another, sometimes they just don't believe that. It isn't necessary to put up a big defense with anybody in life. The life, you don't have to become a Swami, but the life of Swami demonstrates this. I told you, Swami Yogananda did exactly what Yogananda did. For those who don't know, Yogananda wasn't the first. Shiva Puri Baba was the first to do what Yogananda did. He was the first to spread yoga all throughout the world. And he was the first that we know of to come to America and teach yoga throughout the entire country. He went to many countries. In England, for example, he became close friends with the Queen even. And so he was a dynamic person, dynamic Mahatma like Yogananda. So his what he achieved in his life in spreading truth and love and yoga was very, very successful. Vivekananda came after that and did the same thing. And Vivekananda did it very similar to the way that Yogananda did it, which was the only way you could do it at that time, is you would give satsangs in halls. And they weren't called satsangs, they were just called talks. And you would rent a hall in a big city, and you would advertise that Swami Vivekananda is going to talk about reincarnation, transmigration of souls, And so all the people, it's very interesting, transmigration of the soul. So everybody's interested in it. So they would come to the talk. And Vivekananda being extremely powerful, dynamic Mahatma, everybody would be impressed. But these started to grow to a certain extent. He heard that people that give talks are more successful if they hire a manager. And there were managers, that was their sole work, was to organize their talks in the various cities. And he would rent the hall, and he would do the advertising and all of these things for a percentage of the revenue that came in. And Yogananda, he was giving these spiritual talks, but he was extremely sensitive to how much money the talks were making. They don't talk about that, but you can read it in the diaries. You can read it in his exact words. He spoke a lot about money, how much money was being generated. Because he was using that money to buy these buildings. He was also using that money to send back to India for ashrams. And so it mattered how much money he was bringing in. Vivekananda did the same thing. I read all the diaries, all the letters that he wrote, and most of them were about money. Because what he was doing was to spread yoga and awesome to raise money. And he was, his primary concern at the time was the monastery there back in India. So he hired this manager thinking that that's what everybody's doing, is to be more successful. And the manager worked for about 8 or 9 cities. And then he found out when the manager handled the money. And then Vivekananda wanted to take a good portion of that money to send it to India because they were ready to buy this building for the monks. He was supposed to be accumulating all this. There was no money. He used all that money for himself. Never saved any of it for Vivekananda. What would you do if you were in that position? All that hard work, divine work, you would think that God would be on your side and would make everything perfect for you. Well, it wasn't perfect. Every single thing was stolen. All that money, all that hard work. So what was Yogananda's response? Did he sue him? Was he raging mad? Did he want to kill the man? No. He said, I'm a Swami, and Swamis don't react to what happens in the world. They don't have any. When you become a Swami, you effectively no longer have a family, and you're effectively dead to the world. That's the attitude. And so he said, Swamis have no defense. What happens happens to a Swami. So can you imagine having that attitude? You can have that attitude. I have that attitude pretty much, not all the time, but I try. With difficult things, I have to make some effort to exhibit that attitude. Whenever you have that attitude, no matter what happens to you, it's okay. You don't obsess over loss or gain. Krishna says it in the Bhagavad Gita. Whether we gain or we lose, see it as all the same. I told you when I was young, being a young boy, I guess about 10 or 12, my grandfather gave me the equivalent of $17 million in hard cash. It's a lot of money back in 1968, maybe 66, 67, 1968. I was already doing sadhana, so I must have been 13 or something. So whatever that was. I understood it was valuable. I understood it was fantastic. But I didn't think about it. First of all, I didn't have any desires. So I didn't have anything to buy. I wasn't thinking about my future at all. Never had a thought about it. The only future I thought of was the day I'm going to die. So I didn't have any use for it at all. First of all, I didn't know, but I didn't have any desires to buy a house or build a house. I wasn't driving cars. I had no interest in cars. I had no interest in anything in the world other than sports. There's nothing you can buy in sports. Sports, you just have to practice. So I took it and I put it up in my bedroom, and I put it way, way, way back in the top closet in the corner. And I put all the things in front of it. I put it in a box that is very unpresuming. And then I went to India, and I came back. And occasionally, when I didn't have anything else to do, I would get on a stool and I would reach way far back into the truck cabinet, and I would pull the box out just to look at it. And so I was recovering from my illness, and when I got released from the hospital, and then when I was strong enough, I thought about it. I said, "Well, I'm gonna go look at it," and I pulled it out. Nothing was there. It was all gone. The box was there, but nothing was in the box. So I asked my father, because my father was living there the whole time. It's the house I grew up in. He said, "I don't know. I had no idea." That was all I thought about it. I didn't even think about it after that. I thought, well, okay, it's gone. It didn't matter to me. I didn't have anything to do with it. I couldn't have used it for anything because I didn't have any needs for anything or desires. So I just thought, well, it came without any effort on my part, and then it left without any effort on my part other than kind of mildly trying to hide it. And that's the nature of life. Things come and go. You have good fortune, and you have bad fortune. You have something good, and then the next day there's something bad. Or you over the person. You can be having a wonderful talk with somebody, really inspiring, and then they just say one thing, or you just say one thing, and it triggers something really negative in their mind, and then the whole beautiful time is over, and they leave upset, and you're upset. So conversations can turn this way, relationships turn this way. Anything that you purchase turns out can have that way. It can be wonderful, and then it can be terrible. Just look at the reviews of anything that's bought on Amazon. Expecting something wonderful, and some have it, and others have a terrible experience. That's life. So throughout the years, occasionally I would bring it up, especially when my brother was there, when he kind of visited. I would bring it up into conversation, usually just for fun, really, about it missing. And my brother also said, "I don't know. I don't know anything about it." But then I found out years later, by some random interaction, not from my acquirer, but some random interaction to the man that acquired my money. And because he confused me with my brother because our legal names are very similar. And I found that my brother took it and did what you do with money to clean it, in the worst sense, to pay taxes on it. I never had any thought of that, but my brother did. So he bought a house with it, and bought a car with it. He paid off all of his debts. He'd get money in the savings account with all of my money. And I found out from a third party who was there. My brother would never admit it. My father knew about it. He would never admit it. It affects me, not one slightest bit. I always had a great fortune financially, without any effort on my part. And then if I put a lot of effort into it, I could make lots of money with with my effort. So I never had, sometimes I have no money, like right now, I have no money. I haven't had it. I've had zero money for 14 years, ever since I started doing this. But I don't have any income. And when I have income, I make a lot of money because I know how to make money. But if I'm not making money, if I'm doing the spiritual work, then I don't have any money. I have to rely on other people. And there's a lot of good seed, a lot of good giving. But it would be best if every individual just gave some regularly every month. That would solve that problem. Enough money. So there's never enough money. This ashram that was built for me, it's being sold. There's not enough money because we can't continue to pay for it. So we have to sell it. There won't be an ashram anymore. Because there's not any money coming in to maintain it. But I've given initiation to thousands of people. If all of them would just give Siva every month, there'd be no problems at all. Everything would be smooth. But I don't care if there's not enough money being given. I can withstand any sort of hardship at all. It doesn't really bother me. It's not going to kill me. So it's not going to kill me. It's not important. And I know I could just stop everything. I could stop teaching completely, and I can start making money. So I know I can do it if I have to. It's pretty bad right now. Really, really bad, actually. But it doesn't really concern me. So it's just a tale of life in the world. There's ups and downs, flows. Sometimes there's a lot, sometimes there's a little. Some things are important, some things aren't important. Most things are not important. If you just go up on the top of the ashram right now, which those of you who've been up there, Sukriti has been up there, Kanaka's been up there, Sujata's been up there, Samsara's been up there, Sarasan's been up there. I see a lot of you have been here to the ashram. You go up on the roof, which is really high. It's just all outer space. All you can see is the stars and the planets. A lot of planets are visible. Most of the planets are visible, actually. It's a naked eye. And then you're surrounded by nature. You can hear all the life coming out of the jungle of the Himalayas. And in the wind that comes through the Himalayas, too. There's life in the wind that comes through. The wind interacts with this. Just going on the roof, you're alive. It's no longer petty. It's no longer focused on the little things that don't matter. You have an expanded awareness of the universe. The stars are right there. You can reach out and almost touch them. It expands your mind. So, any more? Well, I'm sorry I used all my time on Lucretius's question. And I went up and said a lot of other things. So, tomorrow we're having Kriya Yoga initiation. And you're all welcome to attend. It's a good idea to attend. That's to refresh in your mind how to practice your sadhana. Because I'll not go into that in detail. Okay. It was nice seeing everybody, and I'll see you call the Nengi. Okay. That's not so much to hope. Bahut pyar kata hoon.
Thank you, Gurudev. Om Tat Sat.
That's it.
Om Tat Sat.
Thank you very much.